Okay. So what I want to do is I want to create. I want to just start by doing like the maybe just the get, like the all actions. So the skills, grades, and users. But just in thinking that, like I'm already thinking like there's a lot I'm going to be repeating, like all these Axios calls, all this like use effect on mount type stuff. Let's maybe think of a way to do this like maybe a little more quickly, a little more cleanly. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go in and create the files. So I'm going to go into my client and, I'm going to do this in my pages. So my source pages. Let's see here. I'm just going to copy this home and I'm going to create a new file called, let's maybe just start with users.js. I guess I can just do this for all of them. So we'll do users, skills, just get these set up in our navigation and do a grades page. Okay. And then in my app.js, I'll just add the links here. Let's do, let me do this. Users. I'm just gonna have that go to /users. We'll have skills. I can go to /skills. And grades. That can go to /grades. So that's just my nav bar. That'll just give me some nice clickable links right there. But now I actually need to add these to, so React Router knows about these components and these add the actual pass. So let's go to my index.js. I feel like my computer just froze. And yeah, let's add these here. So I'm going to do a path to users. That's going to go to my users component and do the same thing for skills. It's going to go to my skills and I'm auto importing these as I go along. And grades. This index actually doesn't do anything. If I do the index here, since this is an, let's say I want to go if someone goes to /, I want that to go to the home page. Since this is a nested route, I can do this index in here and I don't need to give it a path. It's just saying, hey, if someone goes to /, take them to the home page. I also have like, if someone goes to /home, go to the home page. So that should be, someone goes to / that takes them to the home, or if they go to the /home, kind of have two routes for my home. So then we go to users, skills, grades, about. Cool. So those are all set up and working. So yeah, I mean, how many times have we done this where we do something like, okay, I want to do my const data. I don't even care what it is, set data, use state, right, whatever. And then we do our use effect. You know, where, whatever, we do like a try catch. I'm doing this quick because I'm going to delete all of this, you know, or actually in our use effect, we might have like a get data function or something. Let's get data equals async. Here's would be my try catch. Let res equal axios.get some URL here. And we set data res.data. Right. And you know, we might have things like loading, set loading, false. And then we might have like some error state. That's like null. Maybe this is true by default, so we're going to do this on mount. How many? Isn't this going to look the exact same, essentially, for like my skills, for my users, for my grades? Like if I want to do something on mount, like I want to do an Axios call on mount, right? This what I'm trying to say, like this logic right here remains the same, doesn't it? Or pretty much the same. What's one thing that is different? There's one thing that I would need to like actually, that really does change.
Your Axios call, right?
Yeah, it's going to be the URL. But if it's just like I know it could, like this is my general like get data on mount, right? What I'm going to do is in this hooks, we're not going to do this today because of time. I'll do this tomorrow, but I'm going to like take this logic and do it to do, you know, convert to hook. I kind of want to take this logic and convert it to a hook. Because that would be very useful. Okay, did I delete that from users? That's fine. Because what I'm going to do, I can't remember if I installed this or not. Axios Hooks. Okay, I have this. So I've already in JavaScript added this gem or added this npm package called Axios Hooks. Because this seems like pretty common, right? Isn't there someone who's already done this for us? And the answer is yes. We'll tomorrow, we'll kind of go see how to do this. But for today, let's go use this Axios Hooks library. So Axios Hook. Sweet. So this is already installed because I've already added this. So let's look at this little demo they have here. And they have like a nice little edit on sandbox. So we can go to their code sandbox. And they're using that rec res insight we've used with like, 2-second delay where we can change the delay. So look how they're using this. They have this use Axios hook where we just pass them the URL. And they give us back, actually, what? You tell me, what does this function return just by how we're using it?
It's just a list of users, isn't it?
Like, what's the, I'm not talking about like this. I'm like more like use Axios is a function that takes a string. That should be a URL, but what does the function return? Like what kind of data, like what kind of data structure is that?
Oh, it's an array of strings.
Like this, right? Like use Axios returns an array whose first thing is an object with a data key, loading key, and error key. And the second thing is this refetch thing, which, you know, you might not be sure, but then you see, oh, look, on click refetch, that looks like a function to me. And it is. So let me just I kind of just want to show this so we know what's going on here. Let's go to Node. Let's go just to like a JavaScript file. Let's do this. Let's do, I'm going to just write some function called X. It's going to return a object and an array. Data loading, which looks to be like it was a Boolean. And I don't know what error is, probably just error might be, I don't know, a string or something. And then a function. Right, it's a pretty silly function, just a function that's returning an array whose the element in the first index is going to be this object, and the element in the second is a function. What other hook have we seen that like returns an array whose first thing is like data and the second thing is a function? Maybe not exactly like this.
Does use effect do that?
Use state does.
Oh.
When we do const use state, we do like X and Y equals use state. Remember that first thing is like going to be the state. I mean, it could be depending on like the type of data it can change. It could be like a number, string, array. So that could be any, but remember Y is going to be the function to set that state. We just call them something a little more descriptive like number and set number. This goes back to like, and this conversation's on Slack. It was, Karina, you asked the question. This really comes down to like array destructuring. So let X, let's say I have a variable just called array equals 1 and 2. I can say let X and Y equal array. Array destructuring. You can do this with objects too, right? Object A and B, 4. We have object Destructuring. Let. I'm forgetting how to do it. Let A and B equal object. Dot log X. Demo.js. So with array destructuring, like I'm just declaring two variables. X and Y here. Here I'm declaring two variables called A and B. I could do it like this. I could say, it could do like let X equal array at 0. I could do that same thing. This is just a cleaner way to do this with array destructuring. Same thing with objects. So there's a kind of a difference. Obviously they're on different types of data, but what's the key? There's kind of two things like with how you do this. What's the important thing when you're doing array destructuring? The important thing is going to be the order. Not the name. Variables. I can call this whatever, X, Y. My variables, but the order of these are, since it's an array, these are going to be assigned the order that they are in the array. So I have X and Y. Well, X is going to be the first thing, Y is going to be the second thing. That's with array destructuring. If you do it with objects, what do you think is important here? Do you think the order is?
Would it be the key?
Yeah, it's going to be the name.
The name?
Order is
Same
not.
thing?
The name is. It has to match the key. You can do something like this. You can match the key and you can like give it a new name. So I could say, hey, find the variable A, but then call it new name. Yo. That would work. If I did like a console.log. What do you think this, if I'm telling this works, what would that you expect that to be? Probably need to wait. Where's my object? Did I delete my object? Oh, it's up here.
That would be 3.
That would be 3. No, it'd be, yeah, 3. So the order doesn't matter, the name does. You can rename stuff, you just have to do this syntax. You have to like match the key and then give it a new name. With array destructuring, it doesn't matter. So I could have a function called X, and then I would say let data. Let me ask you this. So I'm going to call the function. I kind of just give you the hint, but how do I destructure this? First of all, what type of data is this return? Is it array? Am I going to use array destructuring or object destructuring?
Array.
Array, because this returns in an array. Okay, so let me ask you this. What is T? If I did a console.log T, what is T going to be?
That object.
It's going to be this object right here, right? Console.log S. What is S going to be?
Function.
This would be this would say, hey, function. I'm not calling it. And then I could call S. That would be hello. X has already been declared. Let's call this Y. Or no, let's call this, I don't know, blue. So there's that data. There's my function. There's me calling the function. Well, what I could also do, I mean, I can call this again. I could actually just destructure right here. So I'm doing array destructuring now. Inside of here, I can do object destructuring. Now I do have to call this data though, right? I do have to call this loading. I do have to call this error. This I can call whatever. But this object destructuring has to come first because I'm doing array destructuring, so the order matters. So now I can do a console.log data, console.log loading. What's this going to be? Should be 1. False. Console.log error, and that should be error. There we go. Select that out. Look at that example. If that doesn't make sense, spend some of your time with your homework time, project time doing that. Looking that over. Okay. So now I'm going to use this. Going back to Axios. So use Axios returns in an array whose first object is this, or whose first index is this object that has the dating key, loading, and error. And it looks like the data is the actual data from the response. Loading is whether or not it's loading. Error is like if there's an error. Sure, like if I switch this, it says error. Cool. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to throw this. I'm going to go back to VS Code. Going to go to my users. Well, I don't want it to be this. I just want it to be use Axios /API/users. And then, yeah, I can do this. I can do something like this. If loading, let's just return loading. So if error, let's say error. If not, I can just JSON.stringify users. Or not. Actually, what would this be?
Data.
Data. Well, if I wanted this to be users, well, let's just go make this users. and go to my app. Use Axios is not defined. I'm going to also move these so I don't have to keep. So I'm using this hook. So let's import it. Import, use Axios. It's called Axios Hooks. So I need to use that hook, save it. And there's my, oh yeah, I have that like huge. And there we go. That is working. Doesn't look like I'm using that refresh. I don't really need it. That seems to be a way to redo the API call. Pretty nifty though, right? But even this stuff, like this loading and this stuff, I think I want to maybe throw kind of this logic into its own component. So I'm going to create a component called Axios container.js, just because we're going to do a lot of this today or tomorrow. So, and I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to have this component. This component is going to take props. I was going to expect, I don't know, maybe for now it just needs like loading and error. It needs children. So I'll show you what I'm going to do here. And I need to make this a little more generic. So I'm just going to say for now, like error. I'm not going to do the Axios call here. This is really just going to be this container. And then down here, I'm just going to do children, not uppercase children, lowercase, this one from props. Right? What am I doing right here? I'm using object destructuring from props. So I can do object destructuring in a function. So this first argument, is really just props. But I'm expecting props to have like this loading, error, and children. And I'm not going to call this users. I'm going to call this Axios container. Cool. So now on my users page, I'm still going to do the Axios call here. But now I can get rid of all this logic. I can do my Axios container. And give it the props. And now I'm not going to call that users. I'm just going to call that back to data. So data equals, well, I don't even need the data. Actually, I'll take that back. So what I'm going to give this is the loading prop and the error. So I'm going to say loading equals loading. Error equals, what did I call it here? I called it ERR. So I'm going to do error is ERR. There. And maybe I could almost even give this like a title, because I maybe want these all to have titles. So I'm going to call this users. And I'm going to take this H1 and I'm going to throw it inside of here. We're going to refactor this tomorrow to make it a little better, but Let's just do title. So children, remember, is props.children is going to be the stuff nested within this component. So my Axios, when I use this, I can like nest inside of here like some, like a div. Can do stuff inside of here. And more stuff. Sweet. So there's my users. And this JSON stringify, that's another thing I do a lot. And, I might want to come in here and say like, hey, null to give this some formatting. I might want to change this up. I'm going to use this logic a lot. So I'm going to actually make this into a component. JSON. I'm going to call this stringify JSON. Yes. Just going to take this skill, or which one? This users one. This is really lazy to copy and paste all this, but and all this is going to do, this is just going to be a component that's going to do this stringifying it. Stringify JSON. So now I can use, and this one I need to give a prop as well. I'm going to give this one, I'm going to call it a JSON prop. If you want to stringify JSON, you need to give me JSON to stringify. So now my users, instead of doing this, I can go ahead and use my stringify JSON component. It has that JSON prop, and then that's just going to be the users. Cool. So by spending a little bit of time, this is nice because I'm using a hook from another library. I'm creating my own little custom components. And now I have this list, pretty well done. So if I want to do like, I don't know, my skills, just come in, I'm going to copy and paste this skills. I mean, really a couple things change here. Like I changed this to skills. I need to change my URL. I mean, I don't have to call that users or skills. I could just call that data. So now I go to skills. My skills is working. Go to grades. Switch, to grades. Except what was my grades? Notice and it's nice because I had that loading working. And then we had like the really long one. I think it was like all yo. See, the nice thing about this, like that was no work to get the loading UI done. Because I got it done here in my Axios container. Eventually I could add a spinner here. I just add a spinner to one spot, and then all of my components are going to get that spinner. it's kind of why I did this stringify JSON here. You know, if I wanted to change like the formatting, like maybe I don't like this, I want it to go back to the way it was. Now it changes it for all of my components using it. So this is kind of like the reason, like React, you know, we create these reusable components. So they are functions. So we can reuse this logic. And then when we change it one place, the changes propagate down. And then like my grades and skills and like these components are now much more simplified too. Because they're taking like all that try, catch, error handling, like error, like boom, it's done. And we'll see tomorrow how they're like, because this is a little magic, this use Axios. We'll build that tomorrow or something similar to it. And then we'll look at maybe a better way to do a list, do a list component tomorrow, but I think this is a good place to stop. I'm going to add and push. Are there any questions on this? Should I push that up? So this is something like you can start thinking about with your, we're not doing a starter project quite yet, but you can start thinking about, hey, what components might I want in my starter project? Like this acts, like I have a card component that just has a style on it. That's just a border. Instead of doing a div, I could use my, you know, card component. I just make that one change there. I need to start my server up again. I mean, it doesn't look good, but no, I just added it in the one spot. And now everyone using that use Axios container is now going to have that board or that style. I could make that nice. I could add like margin and padding and shading, but I'm making small changes and it's having this nice consequence of changing multiple places in my app. Cool. I'll just go over the homework now. So if you want to, you can get started, but we'll be meeting back at 2:10. And yeah, let me get this out. I don't know why these dates are so weird. I need to edit those dates. It's like 2022. Okay, September. So you're going to have, I'm going to give you till Wednesday on this. And what you're going to do is, this is a doctor's appointment. So it's kind of in Neo, that association with, you know, physicians and patients. So you're going to have a user have many doctors through appointments. So it's that, and you're going to be using with that has many through example. So just like we did today, you're going to create your models, users, doctors, and appointments. It's going to be the same thing with like skills, grades, and users. You're going to seed and populate your database, do your controllers, and do your front end. So the bonus objectives, you can start maybe doing some of these. Don't do this one. We haven't talked about use Axios on mount. We're going to create that one. But as a bonus, you can start thinking about this, how to create your own little reusable components. You can try doing like this Axios container one or some of your own. But that will be the homework. And that is it for me. So any questions?
I'm good.
All right for now.
Cool. Yeah, if that's it, let's take lunch. Let's call it. Let's just do 1 or 2:10. Come back at 2:10.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Have a good one.